We're starting a new chapter on nutrition and biochemistry. We're going to talk about the different types of molecules that are involved in the food that we eat, and then lastly, talk about the idea of food security, where not everybody in the world has enough food to eat, and therefore how we can ameliorate that situation. The first thing we're going to look at is just the types of biomolecules that exist in the food that we eat, and there's four major ones here, which is fats, carbohydrates, and proteins, and then we have these micronutrients here called vitamins and minerals. All of these molecules serve critical functions. They are what we call nutrients. We need them in order to function. If we miss one of these things, even one of these micronutrients, some issue might happen, like illness. When we miss one of these nutrients, we call that malnutrition, which is different than the term undernourishment, which just means that you don't have enough to eat. So malnutrition has to do with the quality of the nutrient that you eat, whereas undernourishment has to do with the quantity of food that you eat. So in the developed world, typically malnutrition is the problem because people are eating food that perhaps doesn't have all of the required components or has too much of one and not enough of the other. Whereas in the developing world, typically we have undernourishment where people just don't have enough to eat. A lot of the food that we eat, especially in the United States, are processed, which means that they've been changed from their natural state by one of the following techniques, such as canning, freezing, or adding some kind of chemicals. That's the main one that's a problem, such as some kind of thickeners or preservatives. In the United States, processed foods must list their nutritional information on their food labels. It shows you at the beginning the serving size and how many servings there are for that particular food. So in this case, if it's one slice, then there's 6 slices in there, if there's 6 servings. One of the main ones that people look at is the calories, and that's just energy, right? And we'll talk a little bit more about it in a sec. We have 2 parts of the nutritional content that are listed here. So the top part where it says total fat and then cholesterol and sodium and total carb here, these are the ones that you want to limit because excess of these nutrients have been correlated with a lot of problems such as heart disease and others. And then you want to get enough of the other nutrients that are listed at the bottom here, which is like the dietary fibers, the vitamins, and so on. Generally speaking, if you see anything below 5%, then that's considered low, whereas if you see anything above 20%, that's considered high for the percent daily value. So you want something between, say, 5 to 20 for a lot of these, right? If you're eating it for the purpose of nutritional content. So this is what percent daily value is telling you what you have to have of that particular nutrient in a day out of a 2,000 calorie diet. Now, you may remember we discussed calories before when we talk about energy quantification, and we use joules there, but calories is the older unit and it's still used in food measurements. The calories that are listed here shown using the uppercase C, and that's because that is equal to 1,000 of the lowercase calories, or 1 kilocalorie. As a reminder, the lowercase calorie unit is a measure of heat that is needed to increase the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. 1 kilocalorie, or 1 of the uppercase calorie, just means that is the heat that's needed to increase the temperature of 1 kilogram of water by 1 degree Celsius. Okay, so that's kind of the way you want to think about it. So to maintain our daily activities and sort of just maintain sort of the basal rate of metabolism that we have in our body, we need 2,000 of that large calorie, or if you multiply that out, you get 2 million of the lowercase calorie. So that's quite a bit. But of course, we have a lot of physiological functions that we need to maintain. That's why we eat that much. So this example just walks you through analyzing this nutrition facts list that's shown on the back of mac and cheese. This one comes from Trader Joe's. If you eat the whole box of this, right, how many calories do you consume? Well, we can take a look that the amount per serving is 360 calories. There's 2 serving per container. So if you eat the whole box, that means you eat all 2 servings. So 2 times 360 is 720. So you'd be eating 720 calories. That's almost half of your daily consumption. Remember that typically we assume a 2,000 calorie diet for an adult, and that depends a lot on age and weight. If you look at the second question here, it says that 40 milligrams cholesterol, and that's 14% of the daily intake. So then the question is, well, how much can you take cholesterol in per day? So this is a quick calculation showing you how to find total value if you know the percentage of the value. In this question, we were told the cholesterol in the box of food is 40 milligrams, and that's 14% of the daily value. And we want to know how much cholesterol we can take, which means we want to know the 100% value of cholesterol. What you want to do is set it up like this, where you say 40 milligrams is equal to 14%, and then X, which is the quantity we're trying to solve for, is equal to 100%. And then just express both sides as a ratio. You can then do a simple algebraic step to isolate the x. In this case, we would do step 1 as multiply both sides by x. So our original equation looks like this. We multiply both sides by x to get rid of the x here, cancel that one out, and then you have x appearing on the right side. And then now we need to bring this factor to the other side, and we can do that by multiplying both sides by 100 over 14. The percent unit will also cancel away. When we multiply by 100 over 14, that side will cancel, but of course you have the 100 over 14 times 40 milligrams appearing here. So then give you the final answer, which is rounded to the nearest ones place, is 286 milligrams. So that would be the maximum quantity of cholesterol that you can consume in one day. The last question is about which of the listed nutrients are considered on the high side. So remember, we talked about earlier in that box, if you have 5% or less, that's considered low. 20 or more is considered high. So you want to look through here and see which ones are kind of high here. Numbers that jump up immediately are total fat. This is higher than normal. The saturated fat is super high, and that's not good, because remember that those are parts that you want to limit. So if you're eating way more than you're supposed to eat as a percent daily value, then that's probably not a food item that you want to eat too often. The other number that jumps up is the sodium number. So it's a lot of sodium. So you do want to limit the consumption. So perhaps you can eat them, but just not eat them all the time.